All right, so let's do this. I'm just in love with this topic of authenticity. And as you can see, I'm in the podcast studio. So this is going to end up in its polished, shorter version on the Make Sense with Dr. JC podcast, which insanely is getting over 200,000 downloads a month right now. So if you're not subscribed to that and you like anything that I ever have to say, and you like the idea of grabbing a new, fresh perspective, go on over to any of the platforms, Spotify and iTunes, and subscribe for free to the Make Sense with Dr. JC podcast. Great morning to you, Byron. It's cool. I'm starting to recognize some of the names of people. Don't necessarily know where all of you are from, but it's good to see you here. And it seems to be growing. Okay, so let's get into this. Let's have some fun here. So I call this unapologetically authentic. So sit with that for a second. And that is the power of not being for everyone. What a power move to just feel okay with not being for everyone. Are you in a place like that in your life? So there's this moment. It's kind of like a quiet moment. It's not loud, but unavoidably apparent. It's not overly dramatic, but it's one that you feel deeply, one of those moments. And as author Stephanie Tyler describes it, it's a quiet thrill. I love that idea of a quiet thrill. Shh, I just had an idea. And it may be, in fact, and I think we'll uncover that today, one of the most liberating discoveries of your life. So I just want to give a shout out to this. I believe she's a Substack author, Stephanie Tyler, in our live broadcast right now. So I'm gonna give her credit in the blog about this. But Stephanie wrote a great article that was part of the inspiration for this and a lot of other resources. So I just want to give a shout out to Substacker Stephanie Tyler. So let's talk about something. Here's an interesting distinction, and I call it the social algorithm and the self. So we know algorithms have with what they have to do with social media and things like that. And there's an algorithm to writing platforms like Substack as well. It's really interesting because we spend a lot of time trying to figure out the algorithm for selfish needs, but there's also an algorithm that is quietly going on inside of you that's been programmed from the outside in. It's your conditioned mind, right? So here's a cool distinction. It's important in this idea of living authentically. So arm yourself with the awareness of something right now, and that is what's actually what's actually around you. So take a look at some things around you, not just like nature and like my desk and things like that, but arm yourself with the awareness of society and culture for a second. And you could just kind of throw a on that. So just open your Instagram, flip through a popular magazine, and maybe sit in and audit your child's classroom. It's interesting to think about what our kids are getting locked in these boxes and learning this stuff. What is it that they're learning? We kind of say, hey, did you do your homework? And they're like, yep, and say, good. But I mean, like, if you ever take the time to see what's being taught in classrooms and you're somebody that's well read and you're up on things like neuroplasticity and neuroscience and you're open and curious to new data, you'll see that our kids are being taught old stuff that's no longer relevant. So anyway, take note of that. Arm yourself with the awareness. Turn on the TV if you dare. Scroll through the news and the headlines. We don't do that here, but if you do, right, you'll see some things. You'll start to see this algorithm that's outside in. Listen to the tone of your favorite trending podcast. Your tone, right? I like to think that this is a trending podcast, but I wonder sometimes. I kind of pause and I ask myself: is my podcast trending and becoming more and more likable as a result of fitting into society, or as a result of not? Not that I'm looking to disrupt, but I just say, interesting. So ask yourself, what does our society tell us is desirable? Fascinating question. What does our society tell us is desirable, likable, or lovable? What should we like, love, or desire according to what society is telling us? All those things I mentioned. So remove the need to judge or label, but just listen. for the sake of arming yourself with the awareness of it. I think the biggest power move that a human can make in this world is to arm theirself with the weapon of awareness, just to be aware. Because you'll notice that we've all made our minds up about things that somebody else pretty much made up. Right? So, if you're open and curious and you arm yourself with the awareness of positive and negative and all of these things, you'll find some really interesting insights. So, if you do that and you're aware, you'll see that it broadcasts an algorithm, a curated collection of traits and trends deemed worthy. I think that's just interesting to look at. Worthy of being followed, praised, and loved. This is what you should follow, praise, and love. I see it happening on Substack as well. And I partake in it, if I'm being honest. I'm not perfect, far from it. So while at the same time, it's causing an internal state of worry and concern about what? About what aspects of what's being projected we should like, love, and desire, what aspects of it you differ from and your true self, right? You ever get that feeling inside, and you'd have to be really, really honest and transparent of noticing how you don't fit into society. And you might, have this system of saying, hey, it doesn't matter, on my own person. But that knee-jerk reflex will show you the internal algorithm of the self. So muster up the courage to ask yourself another question. When you're being your true, authentic self, and that's the one that feels comfortable in your own skin, not one that feels comfortable when you're living in someone else's skin. Ask yourself, do you fit into the algorithm of society? And then ask if you even want to fit into that algorithm. Do you want to fit in to society? You might feel this desire and need to, but when you ask your conscious brain, do I want to be like everyone else? And you detach from some of the material things that you might be after. Is that something that you desire? Or can you recognize that you're simply doing what most people are doing and playing the part of authentic as it's been fed to us and dictated, right? As it's been defined by popular demand. So please know that there is no shame if you notice that. And if you're honest, you will, just like I just did. So there's no shame in that. And I recognize that I probably most likely spent most of my life with good intentions in that state of playing the part of authentic. Yeah, it's interesting. Just one quick remembrance right now. I did humanitarian work for many, many years, 15 years. I was in the earthquakes in Haiti, and I was getting all this praise, humanitarian of the year, or these big stages and everything like that. And at the time, I thought that I was doing it because I was just in service to humanity. But what I didn't know is that I was also doing it because it made me feel good about myself. And it made people think that I was a good person. Isn't that interesting? That was a tough one for me to recognize. So we're very open and curious and honest on this show, right? So how am I supposed to be? How are you supposed to be? It's an interesting question to ask yourself. So let's look deeper. Many of us are becoming increasingly familiar with the primary programmers. I call them our MFTPSE, mother, father, teacher, preacher, right? Society, evolution. So we're becoming increasingly conscious. I think our world, tell me if you agree with this. Our world is becoming more aware. Now, most people are using things like cognitive bias to just like say, hey, I'm not going to pay attention to that. But I just feel like our society and our world is becoming more aware of things. One of those things is that we're becoming aware of our programmers, of our perceptions, right? Our mother, father, teacher, preacher, right? So these are the people in our formative years that just told us things. And because our brains were developing and we didn't know any better, we just said, okay, right? So you have to be aware of that. You have to be aware of that because that's affecting the way you look at things and respond to things today. However, there's two more members of the programming team that I want to point out. And I mentioned them briefly. The programming squad, and they often go unnoticed, and those are society and evolution. So what I'm saying there is that society, which you're living in right now, we kind of brushed on that before, and the paying forward of evolution of man and natural selection and all that stuff, those things are playing a role in your algorithm as well and dictating what it means to be authentic. See, what I'm trying to do here is just help you see that when somebody says, "Are you authentic? Do you think that person's authentic?" Just to be able to pause and say, "How do I know what authentic means? And am I being authentic or am I playing the role of authentic as society has dictated it?" So let's look at those two other partners of the programming squad. So society, which continues to do so, teaches us to blend in for acceptance in support of what we accepted from our mother, father, teacher, preacher. So we learn from our initial programmers what is and what isn't, and what should and shouldn't be, good, bad, right? Authentic, inauthentic. And then what we do is we build ourselves into society and we not only fit in, but we build a tribe around us that supports what we believe. And we reject anything that's otherwise. So that's society. So take a look at what you're consuming, because what you consume ends up being what you assume. I love that. So the second partner of the squad is evolution. So evolution has taught us things like natural selection. Only the strong survive, which you learn when you're a child what it means to be strong. Be a man, right? Hey, be a lady. Be a lady. That's not ladylike. Hey, that's not what a man would do. So we learn natural selection and the importance of conforming to simply survive. To a degree, we're all doing things in support of surviving. So together, society and evolution and the mother, father, teacher, preacher, they often persuade us that authenticity is something that still needs the approval of others, right? It still needs to be approved, or even worse, performed in approval of others. Isn't that interesting? Authenticity. So if I say I'm authentic, it's going to trigger you to say, I agree or disagree. So I have to project that I'm authentic to your liking rather than just the way that matters most to me. This is what I noticed this morning. So, but genuine authenticity isn't a role that you audition for, is it? It's not curated or aesthetically customized for likes and views. Isn't that interesting right there? So genuine authenticity is raw, it's nuanced and complex, and it's often uncomfortable and unlikable. Why? Because it differs. True authenticity differs. It might be deemed abnormal or extraordinary, which ironically we seek, which is where it derives its precise power. So that's what I want to show you is that true authenticity might not be liked by others. And that's why I used that idea in the beginning of the power of not being for everyone. If you were to live your true, unapologetic, authentic way, a lot of people wouldn't like it. And that doesn't mean you say, hey, screw them. I am who I am. It just means that you're you. It's not take it or leave it. It's here I am. Here I am. And there's a lot of fun things that happen as a result of that. So let's talk about true authenticity. So, what does it mean to be truly authentic? Ask yourself this question. To what degree does my answer, if somebody says, are you truly authentic? To what degree does my answer resemble what society has deemed authentic? That's a tough one, tough pill to swallow. So, if it looks like a well captured selfie with a vulnerable caption underneath it, which I've done so many times, I'm ashamed, but I shouldn't be, or an identity laced with tenderness of spiritual, laced with the tenderness of spiritual edginess. I love that. You may have mistaken performance for presence. So, right there, isn't that an interesting distinction? If I'm performing, I'm not being present as myself. I might be mistaken. And it's not my fault because I actually think I'm being authentic when I'm being unauthentic or inauthentic. So don't beat yourself up. This awakening is actually a power move. The power move is to catch yourself drifting as not you and shifting. It's not to just be perfect. The power move is to catch yourself screwing up and putting the work in, the uncomfortable work to grow. So you'll notice that you screw up and you are inauthentic most of the time because of our conditioned mind and our programming, not our fault. But if you can catch it and say, and then pause and then make a conscious decision to shift, that's powerful. That's how you become the dominant force of your life. So genuine authenticity is being okay with not being for everyone and recognizing that the purpose of authenticity is not about pleasing others. Man, that's a big one right there. When I say I'm authentic, I can see that there's a little bit of a seasoning in the background of me hoping that you like me because of that. Wow. We got a lot of work to do, don't we? So it's not about pleasing others. It's an option on the menu I wrote that has an acquired taste. When I sit down at a restaurant, there's certain things on the menu I don't like, and there's certain things on the menu that I like a lot and I sort of like, just like people. But I love the restaurant and I love the experience, and it doesn't make me upset that I don't like the fish plate. So I don't have to be for everyone to be a participating part of the ecosystem of life. I love that. So realness can be a repellent. This is an interesting one. This came to me the other day when my wife was asking me where our mosquito repellent is. So here's a fun metaphor. When you are truly authentic, it's like spraying yourself with off, like insect repellent. Only instead of repelling bugs, you'll notice that it repels inauthentic people. How funny is that? So if you truly wave your authenticity flag, which is not going to be for everybody, you'll notice that inauthentic people will not like you. They'll be repelled by you. So that's how the analogy is there. It's like realness repellent. So it has no smell, but it sends out a silent signal that says, if you're only here for the role most are pretending to play, I may not be your bag, baby. I might not be your bag, baby. But I just want to let you know that. So the repellent may come as a shock at first to people, especially the role players. And remember, role players don't know they're role players. I have played the role of authenticity in my life and actually felt like some sort of a just prophet or something, you know? So remember, a role player doesn't know they're a role player. So don't tell them because you'll just create a rift. So it'll come as a shock, your authenticity to the role players. Um, and that's the likes of someone in a large company owning, or that's the likes of somebody in a large company openly sharing the secret of all secrets. I love that. So, and here's the beautiful part of all of this. We're almost there. The more repelled the inauthentic become, the more magnetic that you become for your true tribe. Your vibe attracts your tribe. And I'm not talking about having a following. I'm talking about your true followers, your true companions, your true co-pilots. That's how I found my wife. You know, it's interesting. I found my wife at a time where I was really, really being myself, comfortable in my skin. And that's why her and I just have this great relationship. Far from perfect, but I mean, that's what's so beautiful about it. So the beautiful part is you will start to attract your tribe. And that doesn't mean the best people out there. I'm talking about the ones who truly see you, feel you, and respect the garden that you have decided is worth protecting with the boundaries you set. So we set boundaries, and that's not a rude thing. I put up a quote the other day about that. We set up boundaries to protect this garden of authenticity. That's what boundaries are. It's not rude. It's just saying, hey, I like my garden. It's mine. It's different than anyone else's in the world. So let's talk about this concept of resisting the herd. because the herd is going out there and the herd is in a stampede right now. And when a herd is in a stampede, they will run off of a cliff if they're dictated to do so. So you can't stop a herd. And if you're in a herd, you don't even know you're in a herd. So if you all of a sudden decide to go a different way by being unapologetically authentic, the herd is going to react. So it's essential to understand what happens when you toe the line of true authenticity and then decide to step over it. It's different than just towing the line. I think a lot of you are right on the line. You know what it is, but it's a scary move to step over it because as soon as you do, people are going to take note. So you're going to encounter resistance first, not because you're wrong, but because you become a mirror that exposes them. The herd, those who have spent years following someone else's definition of self, don't like being outed that they're doing so. Can you feel that? I see some big comments coming in, and I don't have the ability to read them completely. Let me read this at the risk of it being something crazy. I see that Brian says, "So I'm enjoying this. I would enjoy it if you'd spend a little of your day and read over my articles." Of course. You know what, Brian? That's such a bold thing for you to say. I'm going to read your articles, or at least I'll read one of them. So you know what I'll say? You're saying you preach very authentically, and I do appreciate that. And I love that you referred to, okay, so I think we're vibing, right? It's an interesting thing that's going on Substack where like 1,000 people want you to read their articles, right? So what I would say is that anybody that watches this video and you're somebody that has something that you're proud of, send that to me. And that will increase the odds. I think the idea of telling someone to go to anybody's Substack or blog and find something you like, that's probably what makes people refrain from it. So Substack Growing 101, if you see somebody that you think would like something that you wrote, send them what you wrote and tell them why you think they would like it. That's like a 90% read, you know, because it would be exciting for me to wonder why you thought I should read it. Right. So Brian, there's your invitation. I'd love to read it, but I just don't know if I could go through it all to find the one that I like. And also, what if I find something that is not my cup of tea? So give me my cup of tea. That's what I would like. So your authenticity is deemed disruptive very often to the herd, right? It reveals the default mode settings in the matrix. This is a cool concept. If there's any people that watch the movie Inception, any Inception fans out there? So it reminds me of the scene in the movie Inception starring Leonardo DiCaprio, when he's training the young, what he calls architect, which was a young lady. You know, and in the movie, the architect is somebody that goes into the sublevels of consciousness and reorganizes things to the liking of their strategy and all of that stuff. So he's training this young architect, but he warns her in this subconscious level to remain inconspicuous. Otherwise, the characters in this matrix like world will take note of her and attempt to remove her. I just love that movie. So what that means is the herd is like unconsciously doing things, just like this unconscious level in this is what's great about having glasses with no lenses. Is if you have an itch, you can just reach right through and itch it. So just like the herd that sees you going a different way, they'll take note of it and they will try to remove you. They'll ostracize you. They'll criticize you. So that's what I noticed in that movie. You know, hey, don't let anyone in the unconscious realm take note of you. They'll try to remove you because what you're doing is outing that they're unconscious. Does that make sense to you? Can you vibe with that? I love that. I'm still trying to figure this site out. I'm sorry, and I've only written a few. So pick one you love, dude. I like you already. I mean, you're here, right? You're here. We're interacting. We have an opportunity to become friends right now. So, you know, follow up, send me something. Send direct messages to people on Substack, everybody. Just say, hey, cool live you did. This is something I'm really proud of. Tell me what you think. Like that's like a 95% chance, unless some shit happens in life, that I'll read it. So here's the process of becoming authentic in a herd mentality. So the first time you take a step into authenticity, you're rejected. So the herd mocks or distances itself from you and your differences because it's uncomfortable and what is deemed unacceptable. That's the first thing that they're hurt. So if you go after your goals and dreams with your health, I'm a health coach, a health transformation coach. I've coached thousands of people through health transformation. What I notice is that their friends try to sabotage them and pull them back, right? So if I go after my dreams with my business or my Substack and I start to grow my Substack, people that are not doing the work try to sabotage me, right? So that's the first phase. So be aware of that because that's not fun if you decide. So the second phase is you're now resented in the second phase of you living authentically. This is why you have to do it unapologetically. So should you stay the course and be one of those rare people that follows through with your authenticity, the herd is going to begin to feel what they haven't yet allowed themselves to feel. And that would be things like jealousy of your courage. They'll resent you because you're doing what they know they need to do. You start to get resented. This is why it's so hard to succeed. You don't know this. You'll come up with some sort of excuse. It's not the right time. I don't have money, things like that. That's not why you're retracting. You're doing that because of these forces, the algorithm. It's powerful, man. So they hate you because they ain't you and they resent you. So phase three, when you get into authentic living, you followed through and you're like, hey, listen, no matter what, I'm going to be afraid. It's going to hurt. It's going to suck. I'm going to embrace the suck and do it anyway. So phase three, you get copied and followed. Now, this is a huge distinction right now for you to either take a lead in your life or recognize that you're not. You get copied and followed in phase three. You're suddenly labeled as trendy. You're suddenly labeled as trendy and cool. And then people start imitating it. That's how unusual and extraordinary and abnormal it is for a human being to say they're going to do something and follow through no matter what. But what happens on the other side is people start to follow and imitate you without even realizing that they've just switched lines. They're on a different line. They're in a different herd, and it's one that's been started by you. And here's the interesting paradox as we come to the end about authentic living. This is a big, big distinction. There's a paradox going on, and it's it's only the person in the front of the line that is not in a line. It's only the person, and it could be you starting today, that is in the front of the line that people are on following. And you might like having a following, but that's not what leadership is. The people that I coach in our Make Sense Academy, we have a group coaching environment so everybody can afford it. My goal with those people is not to have them follow me and need me. It's to hand them the keys that empower and equip them to not only go on their own, but do it even better than me. That's what true leadership is. So having a following is not powerful. This following I'm growing with my podcast and my Substack, I don't want to keep that following and have them follow me off a cliff. I want to learn, I want to empower those people and hand them the keys to go out there and do their own thing, but do it even better than me so that the world could be a better place for our children. So let's talk about that internal algorithm as we come to the end. Authenticity, then, is not a rebellion for its own sake. It's a return back home. This is nothing new, guys. This is inside of us all. Authenticity is not a new discovery. It's a return back home. It's a remembrance. And that's to the algorithm that resides inside of you, the one that doesn't need social proof or collective consciousness, or collective consensus in order to be valid. When you tune into the internal code, we're getting a lot of pings on the let me get rid of that site right there. Whoop, whoop. Okay, good. That was Facebook. So when you tune into the internal code and live from that code boldly, unapologetically, Something radical happens. That's what's in front of you right now. And it might scare you. Our greatest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It's not failure, it's that we will succeed and we can't handle it. So if you do so, something radical will happen. You'll stop chasing and you'll start attracting. You'll stop apologizing and you'll start magnetizing and manifesting. It happens in that order. And you begin forming genuine and extremely rare and valuable relationships, like the one maybe I'm going to form with Brian. Right, Brian? I mean, there's 8 billion people out there. How did we just have a conversation? It's pretty extraordinary. We should find out why. So you begin forming rare relationships and genuine ones, the kind that don't require translation and explanation. They just are. The kind where you and who you are is not too much or not enough. It's just, it just is. It just is. So just some final thoughts. And I call this create a line where none exists. You don't have to be on a line. You can use a line to like learn. You're on my line right now. But if you're smart, you'll take my line and you'll pay it forward and teach somebody else this stuff and make sure they don't get on your line. So in a world obsessed with conformity, brands, niches, tribes, and algorithms, consider this for a second. Create your own line. Create a line without a line, like a no-line line. That's what I called it. Simply live the one life that only you can live. What a great idea to go live the life that only you can live, nobody else. Comparative realities and imposter syndrome are really illusions. They're mirages created by this idea that we're all like supposed to be the same. You'll find that your tribe finds you. You don't have to go out and find your tribe, your love, your partner. That's why when people are living and they're not trying to find somebody, that person comes into their life because you're probably living as your authentic self. And if you have a bad relationship, you'll always see that you weren't yourself when you attracted them. You were trying to play the role. So you'll find that your tribe will come to you and you'll make a pact to allow them to do the same thing, take their own lead. Make a pact about that. And I do that with my wife and children as well. So let the herd feel what it needs to feel. It's not your job to change people, right? Let them project, let them reject, let them follow if they must. You will be attractive when you start emerging from the sleepwalking masses. That's going to happen. And you might like it for a little bit. Your ego might like it. Let it happen. But be conscious and say, and be aware of all this stuff and do the right thing by yourself and others. Because you're going to stay the course. Because when you live unapologetically, authentically in your life, you don't just find your calling, you become it. Make sense? So that is our live this Monday morning. So remember, if you learned something today, I encourage you to give it away. That's the only way it's going to stay. And what that means is take what you learned today and put it into play. I want to say something else that rhymes with that, but I won't. I love and appreciate you all. I'll see you next Monday. Follow the Make Sense with Dr. JC podcast. I love and appreciate everybody that's supporting me in Substack. Now you know what my intentions are for you is that you go build a Substack that's bigger and better than mine. So I'm always interested in collaborating and lifting other people up within the abilities of me living a life that matters most with my family. I don't have time to read thousands of things a day. And I just love everything that this day offers us in the realm of possibilities and opportunities. And I hope that you can see it as well. So see you next time. This episode will be much shorter and cleaned up on the podcast. This video will live on Substack. So if you care to share, feel free to do so. I think the message is clean. Love and appreciate you, and I'll speak to you on the other side. Bye-bye.